Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Ja, 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 ja. Nikki, Egg, Dan, Russian, Nast, G Nasty, Vic, Serenade, Fuzzy Emu, Posh, Emerald Pigeon, Harry, hello, Skriz is typing, Alexander Vibes, Paper Jewel, Sweater Lady, Grandal Flarp, we're awesome, Speed Bongin, hello, hello, hello. Kate Destroyer, Demler, Sleepy Bunny, Polka, Egg, Roxers. Hello, hello. How is everyone doing this week? Yeethead77, what's up? I saw it was someone's first chats and that they were studying for an exam, so hopefully it's a bug exam. We could help you out a bit, but good luck on that, and welcome to Alveus Chats. So this is the weekly Wednesday segment where we use the uh, cams varyingly around the sanctuary to see what sort of arthropod and other critters we may possibly come across. Um, it's been a bit slow the past couple weeks, but we never know what's going on. You had your first chats as well. Welcome in. So last week we were talking about millipedes, and I posted in the bug cord, the Alveus Insect Enjoyers Discord, um, the recap of last week. So kind of always summarizing what we do the week before. So some of you may have already seen this, but last week we were talking about millipedes. And somebody asked about the one that we had seen in the pasture and how many legs that it had, making the joke that it had less than 1,000. That is very true because we have only so far found one true millipede, meaning one millipede that actually had over 1,000 legs. And it was described uh, not that long ago, just a handful of years ago, from like 60 meters down in a hole in Australia. Um, and so pretty remarkable. It also just wasn't just over 1,000 legs. It was 1,306 legs to be exact. Um, and so that was pretty cool. That was a neat paper that we found, and we talked a little bit about it. I met that guy. We had a small local conference that we hosted this past weekend. Um, and I saw on the list of attendees the guy who described that millipede. And I went, surely no way. Surely no way that, 3 days after talking about that on stream, that I met one of the guys who was on the paper that described this is a tarantula. What are we doing? What? That's insane. No, it's not. Maybe just a big wolf spider? That is a big spider. Hopefully it comes back. There we go. Maybe get more into focus for us. That has to just be a big wolf spider. Tarantulas don't have big eyes like that. Um, but it was a male. If you guys saw the big palps on it, those big front legs that kind of had little boxing gloves on the end, those are a uh, an not legs. They're called pedipalps, but in males they get really big and expanded like that to be able to transfer sperm to the female. So it's a male characteristic, the secondary sex character. So whenever spiders have those little big little boxing gloves, um, you can tell that it is a male. You never saw eyes reflected in a spider. We get that pretty often here. So I think this has to be just a big wolf spider because of the eye shine. Um, certain spider groups have a membrane in the back of their eye called the tapetum lucidum, and it's the same membrane in the back of the eye that like cats and dogs and deer have. Anything that has the reflective eye shine at night, it's this extra membrane that basically reflects the light that is going into the eye back onto the receptors again to basically double up the amount of light that's going in, so it helps them with night vision. And certain spider groups, wolf spiders in particular, have very, very large back center eyes. And so you get a lot of reflection like this off of wolf spider. So do you see how there were those two just big eyes at the top? Um, the smaller eyes around it aren't going to reflect as much. But you will notice that right between those front two pairs of legs, there are they look like smaller legs, but they're not. And they have this kind of knob on the end of them. They're not super, super dramatic, but they are enlarged at the end, which is telling us that this is a male speeding off. He's got places to be. Yeethead, yes, I am. I have been working with insects for 10 years now. I'll be finishing my PhD this semester, and I currently oversee a really large insect collection with about 12.5 million specimens. So I've done a lot of work with insects over the years. He was going quite fast. Logan was doing a great job keeping up on that, but it did get out of here. If it comes back, we can return to that spider again, but I would like to return to meeting the millipede guy. So I saw his presentation, and he was talking about millipedes in Virginia. That's where he's based out of. So he gave us a rundown of the diversity of millipedes in Virginia and told us about some new species he was describing. But at the very end, on his thank you slide and his like, do you have any questions slide, was the picture of the millipede with 1,000 legs. And so during one of the breaks, I went up and I talked to him, and I was like, "Hey, it's very nice to meet you. Like, I've known some of your grad students over the years. Uh, we've messaged on iNaturalist a few times, so like, nice to finally meet you in person. Also, I was just talking about you on a live stream like 3 days ago." And the look that he was very puzzled by that. He was like, what? And so I explained, I gave the Alveus plug, as we do. Um, live stream, live cams with animals. Wednesday nights we look for bugs, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I was like, it's insane that we were just talking about it. We were just talking about you, and we were just talking about your actual millipede this week. And now you are here, and I am meeting you in person. So if you have not checked it out yet, the Alveus bug cord for the Alveus bug enjoyers, I posted the picture with him in the Discord review and the recap. So if y'all would like to check that out, it's there. He's about to head off property. Maybe Millipede guy in chat tonight. I don't think so. I kind of doubt it. That would be cool, but I do doubt it. spider was giving us a run for its money, and now we're at the fence line. It's gonna head out of here pretty soon, but this is a very large wolf spider. I mean, just the way it was moving did give me very tarantula vibes at the beginning, but tarantulas don't have the tapetum lucidum, and their eyes are just in general much smaller. So if you've seen the close-up shots of Eva or Kiwi yet, their eyes are very centralized on the top of their head and kind of give a poor, very low resolution, but view around the spider. Wolf spiders are super active predators, so they have these really big front eyes to be able to see. And we were able to see that when it was turned towards the camera. That pair of like really, really big eyes facing forward with some of those smaller lateral eyes around there. See the other bug in the grass next to the left of the spider? I did not. Certainly curious. I missed that. So can Eva and Kiwi not see at night? Not very well. Tarantulas are not sight predators anyway. Being so hairy, they tend to be ambush predators. So they will send out little drag lines of silk and basically make tripwires. So when stuff walks near their burrow, it will signal to them which direction something is moving from. And so they can just feel by the vibration how far something is and which direction out of the hole it is. So they will mostly just sit and wait. They dig a burrow, hang out at the entrance, and then when something walks by, they will jump out and grab it. So the reason why fishing for tarantulas works, I'm not saying to do this because it's mean to antagonize them, but hypothetically, if there was a tarantula in a hole that you were trying to get out of the hole, you could take a piece of grass and like tickle the ground in front of the burrow, and that has been known to signal tarantulas to come out because they think it's something that they're trying to eat. So they will pop out of the hole and you can get a good look at them that way. Again, do not recommend. It's not nice to tease the spiders. It's sort of like the same way Maya talks about not activating the Venus flytraps because they're wasting their energy on hunting and things like that. But it is a method for them to come out. Oh, gaslight spiders. No, don't gaslight spiders. So if you do that, you should capture a bug and leave it. Yes, that would be the nice thing to do. But yeah, so they're very not visually formatted predators. They are much more vibration based. So they can't see super well even during the day. I think that was Posh that asked that. Yeah, it was. Okay. So yeah, I don't think they can see very well during the day, let alone at night. Do spiders only eat other bugs or grass/plants too? That is a good question, Mavis. The vast majority, and I mean all of the spiders but one that we know about, are predators. So for a very long time, spiders used to be thought of as being the largest solely predatory group of anything on the planet. And there are about 54,000 species of spider worldwide. There is one species of jumping spider called Bagheera kiplingi, which we have talked about several times before. But it's a jumping spider that preferentially feeds on the domatia, which are like reservoirs of plant fluid that are meant to attract ants to help certain plants defend themselves from other things that would eat the plant. Let me break down that interaction real quick. So, ants are generally pretty feared predators because when there's one ant, there are often many ants. They can bite and they can sting, and usually, if you're messing with one, you're going to be messing with a bunch of them. So, certain plants like acacia trees and other things like that will actually provide resources to entice ants to live on or be associated with that plant. And so there are things called domatia, which are, I actually misspoke earlier because I said domatia were the things that were attracting the food. Domatia are like hollowed out acacia thorns that allow them to live inside of the plant. Beltian body, Beltian, is a little like nectar food reward that is usually at the base of a leaf or at the base of a thorn that is meant to provide a food resource to those ants to again kind of entice them to stay around that certain plant. This jumping spider, Bagheera kiplingi, which is named after the author and also the panther in the Jungle Book, um, preferentially feeds on the Beltian bodies of whatever plant that it is. I can't remember offhand. So not only is it a spider that will occasionally eat plant material, it is a spider that prefers to feed on plant material. So that is the only one that we are aware of right now that feeds on plants. But it's a very good question because most people think of spiders as predators. And most of the time they are, except for this one exception. So that was a very good question, Mavis. So few goods, I hope we find one on some stream someday. That would be sick, Lyndon. You guys have them. They're definitely there, but have never gotten one on stream, at least as far as I'm aware. I think this is a worm. Good fact. Yeah. There is an ant wandering around in here. We saw that poking around as well. Who else we got? Oh, ant. Only seen one sulfugen. Interesting. So for those of you that aren't aware, sulfugids are the common names are like camel spiders or wind spiders or sun spiders, variously. Hi Bree, hello. And it's a different order of arachnids. So just like scorpions and spiders are different, sulfugids are a separate order to either of those two as well. And yeah, it's a unique looking thing, and it would be quite cool if we found one on stream. There's only one species in Florida, and I would love to go find that. Sulfugids, Bagheera kiplingi. Just taking my notes so I can remember to put things in the recap. But yeah, so Lyndon, there's only one species of sulfusia in Florida, I think. And I would love to be able to find it. I've done a little bit. Come on. Go up on the thing so we can see you. Wouldn't that be crazy if this was one? We just like spoke it into existence. It's not. This is a spider. But wouldn't that be nuts? All right, chat, who is this one? We've only covered this family once before, but who does anyone remember who this is? A spider, yes. Momtomology, hello. Oh, he gone. He gone. He gone. No, just flat. Woodlouse spider. No. Small guy. Close. Yeah. Tyler. Well, maybe. Is this as far as we can get in, Logan? Is there any way to zoom in on the butt? Lyndon, I'm glad you noticed. That is helpful for ID. Funnel spider. Okay. Brown house spider. No, no, no. Oh, come on. Stay still for us. No. Oh, God. Why do they always do this? So, Lyndon picked up on it. Quokka had a good suggestion, but not quite. Bolus, God, Russian bolus spider would be nice. Would be so cool. So that was a Naphosid or a ground spider. So Quokka suggested the grass spider, which is a good guess because grass spiders do have pretty noticeable spinnerets, which are the little fingers that are on the tip of the abdomen that actually lay the silk down. But funnel weavers will have long, relatively pointy spinnerets. That one had very noticeable, but they were very short spinnerets. And so Naphosids have a vibe to them. And I've explained this a few times, but without being able to see all of the identifying characters that you would usually see under a microscope, a lot of the IDs that get done during chats are purely vibe and experience based. Of I have seen enough of these spiders to tell you that that's what that is. But those short, like barrel-shaped spinnerets are pretty characteristic of the family Naphosids. Thank you, Russian. I was hoping somebody would bug guide link it for us. But they have, okay, it says, can be identified as such by the presence of prominent tube-shaped spinnerets. And I think that's pretty accurate. There are other families of spinnerets that can look similar, though. And to separate those two, you then would need to look at eye arrangement. Ugh. These cameras are good, but I think seeing the eyes on some of those tiny spiders would be hard. Yeah, Mavis, it's crazy. We have seen wing venation on a fly before, which is pretty crazy. Oh, we do have antennae. I would bet that that's a cricket, but even I am not willing to identify based on just the tips of the antennae sticking out. So anyway, yeah, Nephosids. We've definitely seen those on cams before, but it's not very common. I don't believe that they have the tapetum lucidum. So if you go back and watch that, or if anybody clips it, or you see it the VOD later or whatever, um, there wasn't any eye shine, or if there was not much of an eye shine. And so part of uh, doing these is figuring out which ones have lit up eyes and which ones don't. Whom else do we have crawling about? Does anyone else have any fun bug questions from this week or fun bug sightings from the past week? I know it's been cold. We had a hard freeze in the part of Florida that I'm in, and so that is always quite tricky to deal with. Winter weather is not always the best for finding bugs, but I know we have people all over the world listening and tuning in. So, anybody find anything or anything cool in your house, even perchance? Stink bug in your kitchen. Nice. Snowden, Georgia. No bug sightings. Ooh. Rough, rough, rough. Rescued a wolf spider from your dog. Very exciting. Buggy Jason, I found my first centipede snake. What is that? Oh, Tantilla. Okay. Okay. I had not heard that common name before. But that's exciting. Tantilla's neat. Tan jumping spiders. Okay. Wasp stuck in your room. Ooh, yeah, Mavis, that happens. They don't want to be in your room, though. So, hopefully it was able to get out one way or another. Send your bug pics, no bug sightings. June bug season. 2 moved spiders while I was out watering plants. Dead ladybug in your sink. Alright, you guys are seeing some stuff. Even some of you that are in colder areas, at least that I'm aware of. So, stuff's happening. There are always insects active. We haven't had like a really cold spell during a chats yet where we're able to talk about the cold adaptations, but there are insects active all winter. Even if you're not seeing them, they're not out flying around because flying is very energetically expensive, and they would just simply get too cold to allow themselves to fly. Things like butterflies and bees will oftentimes, even in the middle of summer, have to have a warm-up period where they actually will go climb up to the top of a leaf or a plant or whatever they're spending the night on, and sun themselves. So they bask to start picking up the heat from the sun, and then they will also shiver. Not in the same way that we do, but it's kind of the same principle where moving your body rapidly generates heat. So if they're doing this up in the sun, they're going to be able to warm up their flight muscles faster to be able to then take off to go forage. So oftentimes very early in the morning, you will be able to see butterflies and bees and flies and all kinds of goodies that are going to be up like on the tips of plants, trying to get that sun as early as possible to then go on about their day. But on the opposite side of that, it can get too hot if you are too big of a bug. So like things like Hercules beetles and Goliath beetles, those tropical beetles that are like 3 or 4 or 5 inches long, they need minimum body temperatures to be able to fly. But for them being so big, they're outputting a ton of energy when they do fly. And so, because of that, just like running your car, the engine gets hot. With the Beetle, if you're flying, your engine is going to get hot. So, those big tropical beetles, you typically only ever find them flying in the middle of the night. People that go to those places specifically looking for those beetles will set up a light, stay out, look for stuff. But then they set alarms for between 3 and 5 a.m. because that is like the coolest part of the evening. It has been dark for the longest period before the sun starts to pick up. And that's when those beetles will start flying is that dead of night, super, super early morning before the sun. Because that's the only time that they're able to really fly without overheating. And those beetles are typically fruit feeders or feeding on sap flows on trees. So they don't necessarily need to fly around as much to get onto food sources. A lot of the time they can just sit there during the day when it is super duper hot, chew through the tree bark, and then just sit there with their face planted in the plant and getting the liquid out of it. But they do still need to fly around in order to be able to find mates and things like that. So it is important for them to be able to get that flying time in somehow. We got a weevil? Hell yeah, dude, we got a weevil. Look at that guy. Boots and snoots, everybody. Weevil Wednesday. Yeah. Look at him. He's so fun. Stomping around like he owns the place. So, weevils are a type of beetle. Those things are not mutually exclusive. All weevils are beetles, but not all beetles are weevils. And they are one of, if not the most successful in terms of species group of anything on the planet. There are about 65,000 species of weevil worldwide. And to kind of put that in reference, there are only about 6,000 species of mammals worldwide. So for every mammal, there are about am I doing that math right? 65 divided by 6. It's like 10, yeah. So for every species of mammal on the planet, there is about 10 different species of weevil. And that's crazy. They're just super, super diverse, and they do a lot of different things. Hi, Maya. Welcome to Weevil Wednesday. I was hoping you would get summoned in here. Excellent, excellent. So weevils are incredibly diverse. And Afton, that's criminal, actually. They're super diverse because they have a wide range of potential host plants. there's this evolutionary question whether or not weevils drove plants to diversify, or sorry, if insects drove flowering plants to diversify, or if flowering plant diversity drove insect diversity. Because as there are more plants with flower resources, there are more insects that are going to be feeding on those resources. And weevils are not one of the contenders that drive that diversity, but they are the ones that have specialized it on the most. So for every weevil, or for every plant, there is generally going to be a weevil that specializes on that group. So that's why they get so diverse. Because their weevils are specializing on the full extent of plant diversity. And so there are weevils that feed in tubers and in roots, so things like the sweet potato weevil. There are things like the acorn weevil, which do feed in nuts and fruits and other bits that we would potentially be competing for. But there are also lots of weevils that are just in the main part of the stem. So every part of the plant can also have a different weevil in it. And does anyone, or have we talked about before, why they have the snoot? Remember hearing as a kid about boll weevils when I was a kid. Did you get a better rap? So casual, you are mishearing boll weevil. Boll. And a boll weevil is a weevil, Anthinomus grandis, that feeds in the boll, which is the seed capsule of cotton. And the boll weevil is a major cotton pest. So if you grew up in an area that had cotton, or had cotton fields and stuff like that growing up, boll weevils are in fact a major pest. They do sort of use the snoot for feeding. What does he want to eat? I will serve him. Lyndon, there are so many weevils. We would have to look at this guy under a scope to ID it for sure, for sure. Food thing or a sex thing? Interesting. Good comms on that for sure. Remind me to get back to the boll weevil. I do want to answer the snoot question first. So the acorn weevil, for instance, in that group, females are going to be the ones that have longer rostrum. They have that very long, the very long snoot, the official term, compared to males. And you might expect that if that was a sexually selected character, meaning like if it was serving the same sort of purpose as like antlers on a deer or horns on a rhinoceros beetle, that it would be the males that have the extra long snoot. But they don't. It's the female. And so someone asked if it had to do with feeding. It sort of does. Because their mandibles are on the tip of the snoot. A lot of people have either seen it through cartoons or just confuse it with like an elephant, that the snoot is something separate from the mouth parts and the mouth is somehow underneath. No. Those weevils have their little mandibles all the way at the very, very tip of that snout. So the acorn weevils and those things that have these really, really long noses, their mouth is super far away from the rest of their digestive system. And the people that were saying, probably for a sex thing, also not totally wrong. The snoot is basically like an inverse ovipositor. So an inverse straw ussy for our stream, if you will. The things that we've looked at, like the katydids and like the crickets that have that really long ovipositor, they're using that to be able to place their eggs deep into the soil or inside a plant, or, they're trying to use that extra length to deposit those eggs in a safe area. We have a worm on screen. Excellent worm. But weevils don't have as sturdy of an ovipositor as you see in these other groups. So what they do is that they take their mouth parts and they will chew a hole down in through the acorn. We're going to stick with the acorn weevil for simplicity's sake. There's two worms. A second worm has hit the stream. They're inching by each other in the night. So the female weevil, after mating, will chew down through the acorn, putting the center of their rostrum down into like the middle of the acorn. Then she will turn around and use her relatively flexible ovipositor to deposit the egg down deep into that acorn where she has just chewed into. So with weevils, the snout is most often used to pre-drill a hole for oviposition. So that's pretty neat. The one that we were looking at did not have that long of a snout, and that's okay. Snoot size is not everything, but that just speaks to the life history and what type of substrate or media that they're depositing their eggs into. Things that are laying inside like the stem of a plant doesn't need a super long ovipositor. If the plant stem's not very big, it can just kind of chew through the outside. But acorn weevils and all of those other nut adjacent weevils are specifically chewing down into that resource. So they have evolved alongside of that to be able to lay eggs specifically in there, as opposed to the shorter snouted one that we were just looking at today. It just simply does not need as long of a snoot to accomplish the same task. Yeah, showing the instances. Yeah. The worms are pretty cool. Let me get back to the boll weevil though, as that is a pretty interesting story. So, like I said, boll, B-O-L-L, is the little seed capsule around cotton plants, and the boll weevil was a huge pest of cotton in the southeastern part of the United States. And so there is a city by the name of Enterprise, Alabama, that has a boll weevil monument. There is a big statue in the middle of town with a woman holding up a weevil. And they've also embraced the weevil by putting statues around town doing different jobs. So if you guys have ever seen like those cities and towns that will put horses out and like, or some symbol of the city and decorate it differently based on where in the city it is. Enterprise, Alabama is all in on the boll weevil. And so not only do they have this fancy monument statue, they have a bunch of other stuff around town. Like there is a Weevil McDonald. So outside of some McDonald's in Enterprise, Alabama, there is a big Weevil statue dressed like Ronald McDonald. There is one dressed like a cop outside of the police station. There is one dressed like a mayor, including with a key to the city, outside of City Hall. So, Enterprise, Alabama, hotspot for Weevil diversity, or hotspot for Weevil appreciation, I guess I should say. And they do have a Boll Weevil festival every year in October. Fun fact. But why would a city in the middle of the South, which historically probably would have been ravaged by boll weevil, have all of these monuments for this potentially like really, really devastating pest? Well, it was. It was in an area that grew a lot of cotton. They have one just as Hamburglar. That's so funny. I did not know that. I knew the McDonald's one was there, but I did not know about the Hamburglar. So the area was getting ravaged by boll weevil. Everything in the area surrounding it was getting infected. They were losing a ton of money. So why does this town have a statue? Well, some guy, I don't know who it was or what the story was there, but he was a peanut farmer. And so he had the idea to convert all of their farmland that they were potentially going to lose to boll weevil that was cotton to peanut farming. Everybody agreed. They made a whole big switch. The whole area at one time switched to peanuts. And they were so profitable because they weren't losing their crop to boll weevil that all of the farmers were able to pay off like their generational farmer's debt, make a profit, and they continued growing peanuts in the area. So the boll weevil, which to any other town would be this major pest that often caused a bad economic time period, Enterprise, Alabama really embraces it because the boll weevil was the thing that signaled their change to, okay, we're going to do peanuts now. And then they got super prosperous and they made a ton of money off of peanuts. So their statue was like their way to thank the boll weevil for giving them that drive to switch to peanuts. Which is such a funny story to me. The statue, I don't know if anyone's posted the actual statue yet or just the Weevil McDonald's statues, but the actual statue is like very historic Roman-esque. Like it's a lady in a toga, but she's holding this weevil above her head like a trophy, and it's very, very funny to me. So it's a cool story. It's a fun story, and as far as I know, the only big city in the US that has only city in the US that has like a insect statue at the center of town. Enterprise and Google Maps. I think Russian. Yeah, there it is. Thanks, Russian. Linking a bunch of stuff, but yes, the boll weevil statue. Incredible. So yeah, that's what you were hearing about casual. Was that casual? Quokka? Casual? I forget who asked about that. But yes, it was not bull, B-U-L-L, it was B-O-L-L. And it was a cotton pest. So there you are. All right. In the past couple of minutes, we've had the isopods show up on stream, which are the roly-polies. They're crustaceans rather than insects. You guys have heard the long-windedness of during collabs and whatnot about isopods. Well, I don't think we need to go too far into them. Have I ever eaten an isopod? Probably as a kid. I probably did as a kid. I don't remember doing it, but like that seems like something I probably would have done as a child. But I have not as an adult, no. Pretty decent bug sightings for 54. I agree. We've had really good luck tonight, honestly. Is this a slug? Who's this? Inkpot, what is the deadliest bug? Easy. Mosquitoes. Next question. Is this a slug? It's gotta be, right? I don't see a shell on that boy. Yeah, little eye stalks. Slimy. No shell. It's a slug to me. There are these things that are called semi-slugs. And so it is like the transition point between a snail and a slug, where it has a shell, but the shell is too small for the thing to retract into. So it is not, it's not a snail. It's not able to fully retract into the shell, but it's not completely unprotected either. But semi-slugs are really, really funny looking. There's kind of like two different forms. There's like, oh yeah, this looks more or less like a snail, but the body is way, way, way too big to fit. Or the other version of semi-slug is I have a little slightly hard backpack on, and I'm going to use that to protect myself. Semi-slug appeared in my hotel room during a trip to Thailand. That's so sick. I went to Thailand in 2024, and I was hoping to see a semi-slug. We did not get so lucky. Ryan Sword, thank you for the raid. Welcome to Bug Hunt. We will be transitioning back to the animal cams here momentarily if your audience was expecting live animal cameras and not peak slug action here in the push pop enclosure. But semi-slugs, you can look it up now if you'd like, but I will also put them in the Chat's recap that we do every week in the Alveus bug cord. So if there's any links and all these pictures and stuff that we've been posting in chat, I will gather all of these resources together and I post them in the Chat's recap channel where you can see what we have talked about for pretty much every chats that I've done, at least since like last March. Probably longer. I don't know how long it goes back, but all of the links for like anything we've posted about exist in there. I did get the giant angry wolf from Thailand, which is pretty sick. I agree, Roxers. That is very sick. We've talked about that on a previous one before too, but we do seem to have quite a few new people here today, which is always exciting and fun. A gynandromorph is an organism that is split genetically and exhibits characteristics of both male and female organisms. And so it's pretty obvious in things like butterflies, where males and females will often have different wing patterns. And also differences in the antennal shape, because male antennae are going to be a lot fluffier to be able to pick up on the pheromone scents that females are letting off. When I was in Thailand, I found a moth that was a bilateral split, so exactly right down the middle, male on the right half, I think, female on the left. And the wing pattern is not super different, but the antennae are definitely different. And so that was the first time that I had ever actually seen a gigantic specimen in the wild. It probably happens a lot more than we give it credit for. Um, but somebody needs to it needs to be sexually dimorphic, which means you can actually see the difference. And you need to be able to like actually identify it as being split. So uh, it probably happens in nature more often than we think, but it is an incredibly, incredibly rare phenomenon. And people will oftentimes sell gynandromorphs that show up during like butterfly breeding. So if they're breeding for museums or for just selling the specimens, they're mass rearing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these butterflies, and sometimes it will take years before they get a gynandromorph. And so finding one in the wild is like, I basically won the lottery. Flumgoon, is slug bug? This might be a controversial statement. I don't think so. Even in the broad sense of what I would defer or as what I would define as a bug, slugs and snails don't fit. Um, I bug this will be the last. We'll end on this. Everyone's oohing me like I said something bad, but bug in the most specific sense of the word refers to something in the order Hemiptera. So that would be like cicadas, stink bugs, assassin bugs, aphids, all of those sorts of things are what entomologists would call a bug. And when I'm talking to other entomologists, I will call them a true bug. But as an entomologist, it doesn't bother me when people say bug to mean insect. I tell people all the time, like, oh, I'm an entomologist, like, I study bugs, even though I work on beetles and not true bugs specifically. So, bug inclusivity extends to all insects. Well, what is an insect but a terrestrial arthropod? So, meaning it's on land and has jointed legs and an exoskeleton. Spiders fit that category. Scorpions fit that category. Isopods fit that category. Millipedes, centipedes, they fit that category as well. Speak of the devil, millipede right here. I would classify all of those things as bug as well. Where people start to lose me is with slugs and snails, because they don't have jointed exoskeleton legs, and also with aquatic stuff. So, like, to me, a crayfish is not a bug. Crayfish is not bug. Crab, lobster, not bug. Isopod Isopod is more closely related to shrimp and lobster, but it lives on land, so it gets a pass. Um, and so yes, I agree with. I didn't see whoever said it, but somebody said not bug but friend of bug, and I agree with that. They're in the vicinity. They're inhabiting the same types of areas. If you encounter one, you're probably encountering the similar amount of those other guys. So definitely friend of bug. But in terms of being a professional entomologist, I don't know anything about slugs. I don't know anything about worms. I don't know anything about the crustaceans in the ocean. So even things like millipedes and spiders and stuff don't are often like very lightly gone over in entomology classes, but you often don't focus on them for any period of time because entomology specifically is the study of insects. Um, Centipedes and millipedes would be myriapodology. Uh, Arachnology is spiders and scorpions and mites and ticks and all that other stuff. So I don't count them as bugs, but they are in fact friends to bugs. And they are friends to bugs, just like everyone here in this chat right now is also a friend to bugs. And with that, I think I am going to call it for the evening. Uh, that was a quick one, chat. We talked about a lot of things in a really short amount, and it was the same amount of time as usual, but it felt like it went really fast. Um, so let's round up here and do our wrapping up outro. As always, thank you all for being here. I would love to do this. Um, I love the fact that I get to do this and that so many people are so receptive to it. And, thank you to Maya and the whole Alveus crew for letting me pop in here on Wednesday nights. It's fun for me, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Thank you, Logan. Wonderful, wonderful camera operating tonight. We had some real action to test his skill, and I think he nailed it. Does our camera work as always? Please join the bug cord. I've talked about it a few times tonight, but there is a Discord that is centered around the Alveus bug enjoyer. I'm using the loose term there, bug enjoyer community. In there, you can ask questions throughout the week. So if you have a bug question that simply cannot wait until next Wednesday, feel free to post it in there. People post their fun sightings, stuff that they're finding around the house, specimens, jewelry, cool bug t-shirts, whatever that you find. It is all in there, and I hang out throughout the week as well. So if you have questions specifically, you can post them, and I will try to do my best to answer them. There is also the Chat's library in there, so that is the link repository for all of the stuff that we've talked about for all of the previous chats. There is also in there a role selection channel that will let you get notified on Discord when I go live on my Twitch channel. I stream more insect content. So for about 2 hours before regular chat's time frame, I stream and we talk specifically about identifying beetles, but we also have played some insect related video games recently. We look at my pet ant colony. We do a lot of other stuff with the microscope that we have hooked up to stream. So if you so desire, check me out on there. Check the Clips channel, Alveus Clips on YouTube. All of the best animal clip content that you might miss while you are at work gets posted there and is run by one of our lovely community members. So check that out. And lastly, stick around for rounds. In about an hour from now, Logan will check on all the animals one more time before bed. and we will make sure that everybody is doing well. And that'll be in 55-ish minutes from now. So stick around for that. And everyone, please have a nice night. Be safe. And I will talk to you all next Wednesday. Good night, everyone.